Hi class! Welcome back. Now, we are going to have another new video or lesson for today. In our previous video, we were able to discuss reliability part 1, wherein we were able to discuss the definition of it, its different types including test and retest. Now, we are going to discuss the reliability part 2. So now let's go to the next page. Alright, so like what I've mentioned a while ago, in our previous video, is that reliability is the consistency of measurement. There are types. Now, one of the types is test-retest. And in here, let's have another type. So another type is the parallel forms reliability. This reliability varies names such as alternate forms reliability, equivalent forms reliability, and comparable forms reliability. So basically, reliability or the parallel forms reliability from its term parallel, meaning there is an equivalent. Okay, so what a test creator or writer or author would do just to measure if the test is reliable is that the person will create another test just like the test that he or she is currently writing. Okay, so that test would be of the same construct and criterion of the same from the original one. Meaning, if you are going to create a test, a psychological test, just to measure its reliability, you're going to make another test just like the first one, but with different item numbers. But with different items content and criterion. Okay, remember, of the same content and criterion. Okay, again, two different kinds of test, but you're just measuring one of it or the original one. The other one is just to check the reliability. They have the same content, which is, for example, intelligence, and the same criterion or the criteria of intelligence. Okay, to explain further, let's go to the next page. The alternative forms technique to estimate reliability is similar to the test-retest method, except that different measures of a behavior, rather than the same measure, are collected at different times. And here, the alternative forms technique measures the different measures of a behavior that are collected at different times. Okay, so let's go back to test-retest. Again, in test-retest, we are using one test only. So you're going to use it, for example, you're going to take it on January, or administer it on January. You're going to count at least 6 months, 3 to 6 months, to let the same people who took on January take the same test, just to measure its reliability. So once the scores are up, you're going to correlate it. And from there, you're going to get the reliability coefficient from the test-retest method. So that's in the test-retest method. But here in alternative forms technique, or parallel forms reliability, what you're going to do is you're going to have, of course, your test that you're measuring for its reliability, and for you to measure that reliability of the test, you're going to create an alternative form for that, which is another test. Okay, so let's name it A for the test that you are testing, at the reliability, and B for reliability purposes only. So the number of items, the level of difficulty, its language, its criteria, and content will be the same. Okay, so in here, instead of waiting or instead of administering it one time and then, instead of administering it on January and then wait for another 6 months and then you're going to administer it, the benefits of the alternative forms technique is that you can administer the test at the same time, meaning you administer first your original test, which is test A, and then you're going to administer the test B afterwards. You can administer it at the same time. However, the cons of this technique is that you're going to create another kind of test, just like the test that you're currently writing, which is a bit harder because you're going to check as well, and you're going to have to run it to a group of samples just to make sure that the test is consistent on its items as well. Alright, so the difference again between the test and retest method and the alternative forms technique is that the test retest method, you have to wait for a certain period of time, while at the alternative forms method, you can take it at the same time or on one day, but there should be an alternative form of your original test that consists of the same construct and content. If the correlation between the alternative forms is low, it could indicate that considerable measurement of error is present because two different scales were used. So, just like the test-retest method, wherein you're going to get the scores of time 1, which is, for example, January, and then time 2, which is, for example, on July, and then you're going to correlate it, that's test-retest method. In the alternative forms, you can take it at the same time. First, you're going to administer your test A, which is your original test, and then after a few hours, after a few rests as well, you're going to administer test B, which is the alternative form, just to check the reliability of your test A. So in here, once you already get the scores of those tests, you're going to correlate it. But okay, so again, higher reliability meaning, or higher reliability coefficient, meaning that the test has a good reliability. So in here, if the tests are, if the scores of those tests during the alternative form technique shows a very low reliability coefficient, it means that there is a measurement error in there. Measurement error means that it's either the test items are not consistent within the other test items, or the test does not measure, or that does not show consistency on the construct or criterion that you're currently measuring. Or also, maybe your administration technique is different on those two tests. Okay, so in here we also have to consider that the two tests should be administered just like the same. Okay, your administration should be the same throughout. So if your rapport was good in your first administration, or the test A that you've administered, you have to have the same rapport in administering test B. Alright, so here is a preview of what does a parallel form reliability technique looks like. So in here we have the form A, which is form A is, let's have an for example, form A is the test that you're actually writing, and then form B is the test that you will use as an alternative form just to check the reliability of form A. As you can see here, there's an equal sign, meaning form A and form B should be equal or the same. They have the same number of items, they have the same level of difficulty, they measure the same content, and they measure the same and they have the same criterion. And also, it could be measured, for example, if that test should be only taken for 30 minutes, form B should also be taken for only 30 minutes. The way of administrating form A should be the same with form B. And also its scoring and many more. As you can see here, form A and form B is only at the time 1, meaning you can administer it first form A and then afterwards form B. And in here, just to remind you, form A And then after that, Form B should be administered with the same kind of people or the same sample. So if you're going to administer it to grade 6 students or the 30 grade 6 students, you have to administer Form A to the grade 6 30 students and Form B to that grade 6 30 students. Alright, so you're going to take it for only once. The sample will take it only once. Okay, so that's what good in this one. However, the cons is you have to create a Form B just to make sure that your Form A is reliable, which makes it a bit harder compared to retest reliability, is that you have 2 times, time 1 and time 2, but you're using the same sample, the same test, and also the same way of administration and scoring. So that is the alternative form technique, or what we call the parallel form or parallel reliability technique. Now let's see what are the factors contributing parallel forms reliability. First, the development of equivalent forms from specifications that describe tool content. Like what I've mentioned a while ago, we have Form A and Form B. Form A, for example, is the original test that you're currently writing, and Form B will serve as the test just to check the reliability of Form A. It should be the same, all right? But of course, the language would be different, but with the same level of comprehension should be. All right. So in here, it states here that one of the factors that contributing parallel forms reliability is its content. Just like what I've mentioned a while ago. If your content is intelligence, your Form A should measure intelligence, and its criterion will indicate intelligence. That should be the same with Form B, where your content would be intelligence as well, and its criterion should be the same of the criterion of Form A. Alright, so one of the factors would be the content. It should be the same. If it has different contents, the reliability coefficient will be lower. Trial of tools before data collection to ensure equivalence. Here's another cons for this one. That's why I think it's more expensive than the other types of reliability. Is that because before even administering or doing the parallel form technique, you have to make sure that both tests, Form A and Form B, should be equivalent. There should be tools to be used just to check its equivalency. If it's possible, you have to administer it just to make sure that the tests really do measure your content, which will take a long process as well. Now let's see what are the factors contributing reliability. Now let's focus on the test items. We have the group variability, guessing by the examinees, and environmental conditions. Now let's go to it one by one. Group variability. When the group of examinees being tested is homogeneous in ability, the reliability of the test scores is likely to be lowered. So in here, when we say group variability, is the variation of the group that you are testing or the sample that you have. So in here, it states that when the group is your sample is homogeneous in ability, your reliability would be lower. So for an example, you wanted to check your intelligence test. So you've decided to go to a school wherein there are star sections, middle sections, and also low sections. So you wanted to measure the sample from the grade 6 students who have the star section, middle section, and also the low sections. So for you to get a higher reliability, you have to measure those 3 samples: the star section, the middle section, and also the low section, just to get the high reliability. What if we get a homogeneous? What does that mean? Homogeneous meaning you're just going to get the results, excuse me, from the test or from the sample that has the same levels or ability. For example, instead of getting a heterogeneous kinds of sample, which is composed of star section, middle section, and low section, you've decided to get only the star section. Getting only the star section as your sample will mean that you're just getting a homogeneous ability sample because they all perform well in class. Okay, so if you only get a homogeneous sample, your reliability would be lower. You have to, just to make sure that your test is reliable, you have to get a heterogeneous sample which consists of the star section, middle section, and low section, just to make sure your reliability is consistent to its measure, and also just to check if your test is reliable as well. So if your test has a heterogeneous sample, your reliability coefficient would be higher. But when the examinees vary wildly in the range of ability, that is, the group of examinees is heterogeneous one, the reliability of the test scores is likely to be high. Just like what I've mentioned a while ago, a homogeneous sample would yield low reliability coefficient, and a heterogeneous sample would yield a high reliability coefficient. So if you wanted to have a good reliability or a high reliability, you have to make sure that your sample is heterogeneous, meaning they are on the same sample group. However, the next one would be guessing by the examinees. Guessing in a test is an important source of unreliability. So if a participant guesses the test would have a low would probably have low reliability. For example, you have there is a grade 6 student around 12 years old. So the student doesn't understand what is the test for and doesn't understand what is the test talking about. So the tendency of the grade 6 student that you're administering it would probably guess it, because in the first place, he or she doesn't understand what the test is for. So because of that, for example, that test that you're administering is actually an intelligence test. Since the child, even though that child is intelligent, if he or she doesn't understand what's the test for and understand the level of language the test has, the probability of guessing is very high. And because there is guessing, the child, even though he or she is smart, he or she will just simply guess it, the reliability will be lower. So just to make sure that the test will not be guessed by the sample, you have to make sure your administration is good, that the test is understood very clearly and explained very clearly. And also, you have to make sure that the language of the test that the language that you have in the test is understandable based on the level of your samples. So make sure to avoid guessing among your samples. In two alternative response options, there is a 50% of chance of answering the items correctly on the basis of the guess. So again, in parallel forms reliability, you are going to use two tests. The first one is Form A, the original one, and then Form B would be the alternative one, which will just measure the reliability of your Form A. So in here, these two tests, even though they are very good, they are very written good, there are chances, and also assume that 50% of the items will just be guessed by your participants. So other people recommend that if you wanted to make your test reliable, have many items as you can. And then some yes, many items as you can, and some of them can be repeated. In personality tests, some items are being repeated just to make sure that that there is consistency on the responses of the participants. So in here, it is recommended that you make, if you're going to make a psychological assessment test, you have to make a lot of items and then slim it down. Okay, again, more items would be good. However, it could also be bad if that items consists of 100 and more. Okay, example, you're administering it to a grade 6 student, and that grade 6 student has an interest only to the subject for about 30 minutes. Okay, so 100 and more items would be difficult for him or her, and would the probability of guessing would be higher. And of course, the higher the guessing, the higher the unreliability. So in here, make a lot of items, but it should be only enough just to measure the reliability. Because some of it, 50% of it, is actually will be answered by the participants by guessing. Next is the environmental conditions. Testing environment should be uniform. So like what I've mentioned in my previous presentation, just to get a good reliability, you have to make sure that the environment or your administration and many more should be uniformed. Okay, so in the parallel alternative or parallel reliability, um, parallel forms reliability, you have two forms in here, form A and form B. If you're going to administer the test in form A in a closed room, that should also be done in the closed room in form B. If the environment of form A is quiet, the environment of form B should also be quiet. If there are 5 lights in the room in form A, there should be also 5 lights in the room for form B. The environment should be uniform. Okay, so the table should be the same as well, and many more. As much as possible, everything should be similar or uniform. If your rapport is the same, is very high on form A, the rapport for form B should also be the same. So, because differences in the environment can also affect the reliability of your test. Because sometimes, if for example in form A, the condition there is colder or cold, and in form B, you just turned off all the air conditioner and then just open the doors. So the environment would be different, and some of the participants or sample would have a very uncomfortable feeling. So the tendency, they wanted to finish the test early, they would not concentrate on the test, and guessing would also be possible as well. So you will not measure the reliability of that. So you have to make sure that the test environment should be uniform on administering form A and form B. Arrangement should be such that light, sound, and other comforts are equal and uniform to all the examinees. Like what I've mentioned a while ago, physical arrangement as well is very important. The light, the sound, and other things should be uniform in administering in form A and form B. Otherwise, it will tend to lower the reliability of the test scores. Like what I mentioned a while ago, the differences in environment would only yield lower reliability coefficient. How to improve reliability of test scores? First one, the group of examinees should be heterogeneous, that is, the examinees should vary wildly in their ability or trait being measured. Just like what I've mentioned a while ago, For example, your chosen sample is grade 6 students. To gain or to have a heterogeneous grade 6 students, you have to get their different or varying abilities. So instead of just getting one section, you have to get the sections from star section, middle section, and low sections. So there, you'll be able to get a heterogeneous sample of the same from the same population. Next, items should be homogeneous. So in here, your sample should be heterogeneous, but your items should be homogeneous, meaning your items would be measuring the same construct and having the same criterions. So here, yes, like for example, you're measuring for intelligence, so the test or the content of your test uh, should only be intelligence, and its criterion will, or its items will be measuring the criterion of intelligence. Again, criterion means criteria. Task should be preferably be a longer one. Just like what I've mentioned a while ago, test items, there are probability that people will 50% of the test would be answered by people through guessing. So in here, it is highly recommended that if you wanted to make your test more reliable or have a higher reliability coefficient, make your test a longer one. Because again, 50% of it would be guessed. Items should be discriminatory ones. Discriminatory ones meaning it can be differentiated and can be easily says that the test item is different to the other test items of the same test. Meaning the test item could be said hard, easy, difficult, and hard. It can be described as that. So there are items that are easy, there are items that are difficult, and also there are items that are hard. So for you to attain a good reliability, the items should be discriminatory to each other as well. All right. So that's probably the end of reliability, the whole topic for reliability. So I do suggest, just to make sure that you understand what I'm trying to say in the reliability topic, I do suggest that you also watch the reliability part 1. You have to repeat it again just to understand it more clearly. I do suggest that you do that. So in here, that's the end of this presentation. So if you have any more questions or any questions, please let me know in our FB Messenger chat. So thank you very much. I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.